A phone number feels like the smallest detail in a whole account, a box you fill in once and forget. It is actually one of the strongest threads a platform can pull to tie two of your accounts together. The number does not live in your browser, where a good fingerprint can hide it. It lives deep in the platform's own records, right next to the account it verified. I run a fleet of real accounts on real SIMs, and the number has caused me more quiet trouble than proxies and fingerprints combined. This is how phone verification actually works across many accounts, why the cheap options get accounts flagged or lost, and why the number is so often the real bottleneck nobody warns you about. Why the number links so hard. Start with why this one detail matters so much. A proxy sits on the network layer, and a fingerprint sits on the device layer, and both are things you can shape and swap at will. The phone number is different. Once you hand it over to verify an account, it goes into that account's internal record and stays there as a verification contact and often a recovery contact too. If the same number ever touches a second account, the platform now has two accounts pointing at one line, in a place no proxy or profile can reach. That is why a shared number links harder than almost anything else in the stack. Real SIMs. The gold standard is a real SIM on a real carrier, the same kind of line an ordinary person carries in an ordinary phone. It has a genuine place on a mobile network, receives codes reliably, and ages into trust the way a real line does because it behaves like one every day. A platform checking the number finds a normal mobile subscriber, which is exactly the story you want an account to tell. The catch is cost and effort, because a real line means a physical SIM, a device to hold it, and a monthly bill. That is the honest price of the strongest option. VMINs. VMINs sit in an interesting middle. An MINs is still a real carrier line, just provisioned as software onto a device, instead of a plastic card, and a good MINs from a real carrier looks like the real line it is. They are easier to provision at scale than juggling drawers of plastic, which is genuinely useful once you run many numbers. The caution is that some resellers hand out lines that have already been through many hands, so an eSIM is only as clean as its source. A real carrier eSIM is strong. A bulk resold one can be as burnt as any pool number. VoIP numbers. Then there are VoIP numbers, phone numbers that ride over the internet rather than a mobile network. They are cheap, instant, and endlessly available, which is exactly why platforms have learned to treat them with suspicion. Many services can look up whether a number is a mobile line or a VoIP line, and a fresh account verifying with VoIP is quietly filed as higher risk before it does anything at all. VoIP is not forbidden, and plenty of real people use it, but for a new account trying to look like an ordinary mobile user, leading with a VoIP number starts you in a worse spot than a real line would. Shared number pools. The cheapest option of all is a shared online number, the kind you rent for a minute from a website to catch one code. These come from pools that thousands of strangers use for the same purpose, and platforms know these ranges well. A number from one of those pools has usually verified dozens of throwaway signups before it ever reaches you. You are not getting a clean line. You are borrowing a number with a long, visible history of the exact behavior platforms watch for. It may catch the code, but the account it verifies often starts flagged and does not last a week. The reuse problem. This is the heart of why cheap numbers cost you. A recycled number arrives prejudged. Carriers reissue disconnected numbers after a while. Resellers churn the same lines through many customers, and pool services never stop reusing theirs. So the number you attach to a fresh account may already carry the baggage of whoever held it before, including their bans and flags. You did nothing wrong, and the account still starts suspicious because the platform remembers the line. Paying a little more for a number with no prior life is often the difference between an account that settles in and one that dies fast. The recovery trap. The most expensive mistake with numbers is not verification, it is recovery. It is tempting, when you are short a line, to reuse one good number as the recovery contact across a couple of accounts. Do that, and you have wired those accounts together in the platform's internal records, the one place no amount of clean proxies and separate profiles can undo. A shared recovery number is a direct, permanent link that sits invisible until the day the platform looks, and then it can take the whole group at once. One number belongs to exactly one account for verification and recovery both. The number to account map. Because the number is this load-bearing, it has to be written down. Keep a plain map of which number belongs to which account, which carrier it came from, when it was activated, and when it needs topping up to stay alive. When you run 5 accounts, you can hold this in your head, and when you run 50, you cannot, and the moment you lose track is the moment a line gets quietly reused on the wrong account. The map is not bureaucracy, it is what lets you swear, at a glance, that no number is doing double duty anywhere in the fleet. Losing a number? Now the risk people discover too late. If a platform ever asks an account to verify and the number it was built on is gone, the account can be gone with it. Prepaid lines expire if you do not use or top them up. Pool numbers vanish the second you stop renting them, and a cheap VoIP line can disappear when the provider feels like it. An account anchored to a number you no longer control is one you can lose at the next security check, no matter how well you ran everything else. The number is not a one-time key, it is a lock you have to keep the key to. SIM dormancy and upkeep. Rare lines need upkeep for the same reason. A prepaid SIM sitting in a drawer goes dormant and then gets disconnected if it goes long enough without activity or a top-up, and carriers vary on how patient they are. So a fleet of numbers is not something you buy once. It is something you maintain with small regular costs and the occasional top-up to keep each line breathing. This upkeep is part of the true price of doing verification properly, and another reason the number, not the proxy, is often the ongoing headache, whether the code even arrives. There is also the plain question of whether the code shows up. A good real line receives its one-time codes in seconds, every time, which matters more than it sounds when a login challenge is on a timer. Cheap pool numbers and some VoIP services drop codes, deliver them late, or share the inbox with other renters, so you are racing a stranger for the same message. An account you cannot reliably receive a code on is an account you cannot reliably recover, and that unreliability tends to show up in the middle of a challenge you badly needed to pass cleanly. Aging the number, like everything else in this world, a number is more trusted when it is older. A line that verified one account and then quietly held it for months reads very differently from a number that appears, verifies, and is never seen again. This is another mark against the rent a number for a minute approach, because those numbers never age into anything, they only ever do throwaway work. A real line that stays with one account and grows old alongside it becomes part of that account's believable history, not a fresh detail that raises a question every time it gets checked. VoIP has honest uses. To be fair to VoIP, it is not a villain, and I use it myself where it fits. Plenty of ordinary businesses run entirely on VoIP lines, so for an account that is openly a business rather than a person, a stable business VoIP number can be perfectly appropriate and honest. The mistake is using a throwaway VoIP number to dress a brand new account as a long-time mobile user, because that is the exact mismatch the risk checks are built to catch. Match the number to the kind of account you are honestly running, and VoIP has a legitimate place in the mix. Keep the number story consistent. The number also has a geography, and it should agree with the rest of the account story. A line with one country's code sitting behind a proxy in another country, on a device claiming a third, is 3 answers to one question, and that inconsistency is itself a signal. The cleanest accounts keep the number, the connection, and the claimed location roughly in agreement, because a real person's phone, network, and home usually match. You do not need paranoid precision, but a number from a wildly different place is one more thread that does not need to be there. Audit the numbers. Numbers drift like every other layer, so they need auditing. Every so often, walk the map and confirm each line is still active, still attached to only its one account, and still able to receive a code. This is where you catch the prepaid line that lapsed last month, the number a tired version of you reused as a recovery contact, or the pool number you forgot was never really yours. The audit is cheap, and the failure it prevents is not, because a number problem usually surfaces as a locked account at the moment you cannot afford it. Why this is the real bottleneck? Put all of this together, and you see why numbers, not proxies or profiles, usually cap how many accounts you can really run. Profiles are cheap and endless, proxies are a solved and affordable problem, but real, clean, well-kept phone numbers are none of those things. Each one costs real money, needs a device or a slot, and demands ongoing upkeep to stay alive. That is the quiet ceiling most people hit, and it is why serious operators plan their number supply before anything else, rather than discovering at account 30 that they have run clean out of lines. the honest limit, and then the honest limit, the same one that applies to every layer. A perfect number does not make an account behave. A real, aged, private line answers the question, is this a genuine, reachable person cleanly and completely? And that saves accounts a bad number would lose at the first challenge. But it does not license careless behavior, it does not fix a shared payment method, and it does not make an account immortal. The number keeps the verification and recovery story true. The rest, as always, is the behavior on top, and that part stays yours to get right. I run my own fleet on real SIMs and a few honest AirSIMs, one number to one account, mapped and audited, topped up so nothing lapses, because I would rather pay for clean lines than lose a batch of warmed accounts to one recycled number. The full guides and tested pics are at multiaccount.ops.com with the real cost of each kind of number, how to keep a clean number to account map, and honest reviews of the SIM and eSIM sources I actually use, no affiliate guesswork. If you are trying to work out why your accounts keep dying at the verification step, that is the place to start. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, the account graph. How platforms quietly connect your accounts behind the scenes, and how one shared thread can link a whole fleet you thought was clean.